Good afternoon to you, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion for the 28th of September 2016. Let's get right to it with Tropical Storm Matthew. This is the official forecast track, moving through the Caribbean Sea with a turn to the northwest towards Jamaica perhaps here on day 5. This is important, and I'll show you why in just a moment, other than for obvious reasons that it could impact Jamaica. Hopefully this will stay far enough north of the north coast of South America, including Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, to keep the impacts to a minimum there. Currently the system moving west of the Windward Islands. Winds are still 60 miles per hour. If we look at the satellite animation, the unenhanced infrared, basically the brighter whites that you see generally indicate higher cloud tops in the atmosphere. Overall, a strengthening system, very, very healthy outflow. And the center is located just right in here somewhere, moving between Barbados and the Windward Islands, west of there towards Grenada and Dominica, etc. A fairly loosely defined center, so this is not like tracking a well-defined eye. That'll probably come later, and conditions will improve gradually as this moves on off to the west. And then we have to watch for impacts here in the Greater Antilles over the next several days, Jamaica included. I don't think this gets as far west as the Caymans, but you never know. And then, as I mentioned, it should stay north of Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, down here north of Venezuela. Looking at the health of the system from a vorticity perspective, I talk about this very often in my videos, and there it is, more round looking than ever before. This came from virtually nothing, just an area of energy and weak vorticity over Africa several days ago, tracking all across the Atlantic here, and now it's starting to come to life. And what happens down the road, obviously a lot of people paying very close attention, as they should be, with implications for impacts beyond the Caribbean over here. So this is the upper level wind profile, very well defined anticyclonic flow, and this should move with the system. And overall, a favorable upward motion pattern setting up across the western Atlantic basin as a more favorable Madden-Julian oscillation, and maybe even what is called a convectively coupled Kelvin wave. For the layperson, favorable. That's what we're seeing for the first time this season. Large-scale, widespread, favorable conditions. There will be bouts of dry air here and there. There'll be a bout of shear here and there that'll mess with the system's internal structure, but overall everything looks like it is all systems go for intensification, and the models are responding with a very steady increase to perhaps near Category 4 intensity. Even the intensity consensus here, right there, the gray line indicating just near Category 4 beyond the 5-day forecast time frame, which only goes out 220 hours. Beyond that time, this could get even stronger, and so interests in the Caribbean need to watch this closely. I want to caution you. Remember that intensity forecasting is where the least amount of skill lies when predicting hurricanes. You can have over-prediction, and you can have severe under-prediction, and we just need to be careful with this. And if somebody's in the path, the cone of uncertainty, etc., be ready to take action, because this could strengthen much faster than the models are showing. It could also struggle. You never know for sure. But with the way the environment is set up, I think this will strengthen, and it could become very, very strong. A look at the 12Z or UTC, whichever way you want to look at it, model plots from the various models over here on the right. One day, maybe in the off season, I'll have a primer on what all these different models mean, and we can go into that in more detail. But for, again, the layperson, you look at the envelope of the overall guidance package here, and for the next several days, we'll call it 96 hours or so, it's a fairly straightforward forecast following a general west motion, maybe losing just a little bit of latitude, meaning that it moves a little bit south of west. Due west is 270 degrees, like this, and so maybe it comes in a little bit like this for a time, as an example. I'm not saying it'll follow 20 degrees north, but you get the idea. That's why you see this little bit of a curve as it moves just south of due west for a period of time. From there, as you can see, we start to get divergence in the models with a pretty big spread here over the course of the 5-day time frame. But interestingly enough, the consensus, when they talk about that they follow the consensus between the GFS and the Euro or etc., when you hear that word consensus, that's typically this model group up here at the top, and we can look for that. There it is right there on the western side of Jamaica. The OFCL is the official forecast track, so that lies just to the east of the consensus model itself, or the blend of the reliable models. And then you have the AEMI, which is the ensemble mean of the GFS, and it's over here at eastern Cuba. So you see that they did basically split the difference here, because I guess the Euro and enough other models are pulling the consensus a little bit to the west enough so that technically the TVCA consensus model here is over western Jamaica. This is out at 5 days. We're talking about potentially a couple hundred miles of error in the overall model package. So you have to take this and say, okay, I'm in Jamaica, I'm going to Jamaica, I need to be watching this very closely. And as well, you need to be watching this closely in Haiti and in eastern Cuba. And that's what this shows us, putting it all together. That's what this means. Now, the potential for this, as I talked about, to become very strong, I want to bring up something important. The water temperatures, I saw Michael Lowry from the Weather Channel talking about this on social media. The Western Atlantic water temperatures, the average water temperature in here, is the strongest, highest value that it's been this time of year in the modern era, since we were able to measure these things. To say in history, I guess since we've had the technology to measure stuff like that. These are the anomalies. These reds and oranges in here indicate values above the long-term average. And it is very, very warm, and that extra warmth this late in the season, we're talking about, this map came out on the 26th. We're getting close to October. We're past the first couple of days of fall, and here we are with water temperatures averaging around 84 degrees Fahrenheit across the Western Atlantic Basin. That is extremely important because it provides extra fuel. And looking at the actual upper ocean heat content, the surface of the ocean needs to be around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and when that 80-degree line extends deep into the water, hundreds of meters deep in some cases, you have what we call high upper ocean heat content. And this particular map shows that extremely well. Our system is located right in here, roughly, and it's going to be moving generally in this direction over the next several days. This is a general idea, and you can see it's headed towards the highest ocean heat content value in the Western Hemisphere, and possibly even in the globe right now. These whites here, you can think of it as white hot. Now, it's not necessarily that the water is 90 degrees or something like that. That's not how you need to look at this. The water temperatures down here are in the mid to upper 80s Fahrenheit, but that isotherm, the line of equal temperature, that 80-degree plus, extends way down into the ocean. So as Matthew comes along and churns the ocean up, it's just churning up more 80-plus degree water. So it has an unlimited supply, unless it's stalled for a couple of days, to just churn and bring up warmer water. It whips it into a frenzy. It's almost like a fine mist. It is amazing what these things can do, and it's too bad they hit land, because it really is remarkable, and it's just a shame that people are in the way sometimes to make it sometimes very tragic. But this upper ocean heat content equals energy. And so this thing could really, really crank up, and we need to be watching that closely. If it were to track up the East Coast, like the GFS has been showing, the potential for it to stay strong is also there. 29 degrees Celsius, which is, we're talking about mid-80s or so, 84, 85 degrees roughly. And the Gulf Stream here, 28 degrees Celsius, around 82. Still intact, all the way up here, southeast of Atlantic City, New Jersey, which is here. And so the potential is there for this to be a disruptive event wherever it ends up hitting. In fact, if we go back and look at the larger ocean heat content map, you see that even fairly decent values extend up just off the coast of the Carolinas here. If it were to get into the Gulf of Mexico, which really nothing's showing that definitively right now, a little lower values, but overall the water temperatures in here at the surface still very much on the warm side. I want to show you this as I end the discussion for today. This is the 500 millibar mid-level of the atmosphere at day 5 from this morning's run of the GFS. This just came out within the last 90 minutes or so. Here is Matthew represented with vorticity, it's very strong here over eastern Cuba. Now remember where the official forecast track shows at day 5 the center of this being. Let's go back to this map. It's right here over or very close to extreme southeast Jamaica. So the GFS 5-day position from the run right now has it over here. And that's very interesting because the Hurricane Center's forecast track is clearly to the south and west of the GFS latest run 5-day forecast position. How will that play out? Well, basically, it's all going to come down to all these pieces of energy here, this little trough, a little weakness in the atmosphere, the Bermuda High out here. Does it strengthen back enough to push this more in a westerly course towards the North Carolina, South Carolina coastline? There appears to be pretty good consensus that a strong area of high pressure is going to move off over New England and out of Canada over the northwest Atlantic, Nova Scotia, Maine, and southeast Canada. This big area of high pressure, and you can see those heights rising right there coming in at day 5. This trough energy lifts out, and then your heights, the air builds like a big mountain in the atmosphere over the northeast here, essentially blocking it, and it's just a matter of when will that occur. And the GFS seems to do this the most consistently, and it brings it up the east coast in the last 24 hours. Some of those runs into the Carolinas, some of them just offshore, maybe near Nova Scotia. So it's going to be close. Or the Euro with its solution that it comes up here very slowly. It's just crazy. I wish I knew how this is going to turn out, because I need to plan on where I need to go. I know that sounds selfish, but certainly put it this way, if I knew, I would tell you, because I'm going to be going there, and I don't know. I don't have any inside information. I don't have a magic crystal ball or the 50 years of hurricane history almanac that somebody stole from the future and brought it back and gave it to me, and I'm just not telling anybody. It doesn't work like that. We're going to have to just wait and see. But I'm going to tell you right now, you folks here in the Greater Antilles, and then anywhere along the East Coast to probably Louisiana and Mississippi, keep an eye on it. Do you need to worry? Nah, that's too strong of a word right now. Worry. Should already be ready. It's hurricane season. I will let you know when it's time to worry, and that would be when we have a major hurricane bearing down on what I think will be your location. And there will be a time to worry if it's strong enough, certainly, and then you need to start making decisions about what you're going to do. But we're not there yet. We still have many days to watch. Have a great rest of your Wednesday afternoon. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. As always, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate your time and attention, and I'll be back with much more for you tomorrow.